I didn't think we were going to get away at all this morning, Dexter, the mad rush.
It's a bit of a panic, all right, Mike, isn't it, eh?
You have to be fairly keen, don't you, to drive 100 miles up there and tear around the track for a couple of hours and then come back in the middle of the night.
Oh, I suppose so. I suppose we're half mad, really.
Dexter Dunlop is a sales representative, 25 years old, married with one child. And his main passion in life is racing a stock car. Every Saturday afternoon from November through to March, he sets out to drive over 100 miles from his home in Wellington to the arena of combat in Palmerston North. He returns wearily in the small hours of Sunday morning, sometimes with prize money, often without. But to Dexter Dunlop and the other combatants, this is not important. The whole pleasure is the sport itself.
Oh, yes, of course I do. I mean, I don't get as much enjoyment out of it as he does, of course. But I think I really only mind the time factor, really. The actual sport itself I don't mind at all. It's the time factor that I don't like.
Yeah, but if it was in Wellington, it wouldn't be so bad.
No, it wouldn't be so bad.
I mean, you must admit that Saturday virtually goes into getting up there.
Then again, it's not really the travelling that's the troublesome thing, is it? It's the out every night working on it.
Oh, but I mean, what about a man that plays golf? He plays golf. He gets up at 6 o'clock.
He doesn't play golf in the dark, does he?
No, but he gets up on Saturday and he plays golf all day. He gets up on Sunday.
Oh,
Why is that different?
Different. He doesn't go out every night of the week putting a ball against a shed in the dark.
Well, what's actually involved in maintaining a stock car, Dexter? Is it very expensive?
Well, it's not just the maintaining the body in that, Mike, and trying to keep it, respectable looking. We've been through about 9 wheels this year. They got solid 3/8 plate in them. The normal rim is cut out, and we weld the plate in them. But they'll still bend up if a car hits it. So you're always making new wheels. And there's the mechanical side of it. We've put 3 gearboxes in the car. We've had to change 1 differential over. You can have a lot of trouble with the motors. A lot of people think the motors are stock motors, but my motor is very, very extensively modified. It develops about 106 horsepower, which is about 40 horsepower more than a Chrysler Valiant develops. It's cost an enormous amount of money to do this, and as a result, with any highly modified motor, it can tend to be a lot of trouble. And tuning of it is a pretty important thing. We have to put it on a dynamometer and sometimes play around with it for 3 or 4 hours to get it running right.
Does this involve a great expense, or?
Look, to modify the engine, my engine has cost me about £230. That's to buy an engine and to modify it. And you must realise that it's an old engine. It's an old 1948 model engine.
Yes, but then again, it's only really expensive if you want to have a really good car. If you're prepared to just have one of the ordinary little cars, it's not so expensive then, but you're not.
But then again, you're not going to win anything back.
Oh, I suppose so. A lot of it depends on luck too, doesn't it?
We've spent £600 on this car. That's to build it and to maintain it up to the present time. I've got about £350 back in prize money. The car, I've got a chap that wants to buy the car off me without a motor for £90. I'd probably come out about square, but I spent an enormous amount of time on it. I mean, we might work 20 hours a week on the car. On the average, we probably would. We work right through Friday night sometimes to get the car ready. And there's always some little part that needs replacing or straightening, or it's just money all the time. People think that you go up there and you win £40 and they think, well, that's pretty good money, but you'll probably spend 20 of it back on the car.
Well, why do you think guys do it? They're not getting any money back.
Well, it's the sort of sport you've got to drive a car to understand it.
Do you know of anybody who's given it up, lost their nerve?
A lot of them give it up when they're married. I don't think it's because their wife nags them into giving it up. I think it's because of the fact that when they get married, the money's just not as good as it was, and they have to sort of feed two mouths instead of just their own. And it really is a single man sport, unless you've been married for a couple of years. I mean...
Is there much animosity between drivers if you push somebody off the track?
No, I don't think so.
There's no bad feelings?
None at all. Occasionally, well, I don't know. I was put over the drums one night for no reason at all. A bloke moved over to let me go past, and then when I got halfway past, he swung his wheel onto me, and he drove me onto the inside of the track, and I went over the drums and rolled upside down and damaged the car fairly severely. I had to put the engine in and buy a new gearbox. The gearbox was smashed in it, and I definitely would like a chance to sort of get my own back. But by the time the next Saturday comes, you've forgotten all about it.
Do you ever worry about Dexter tearing around the track and smashing the car up?
No, I don't ever really. Sometimes he's had a few bad spills and I have been a little bit worried, but never really worried for the simple reason that I've driven the car myself, and it is very strong inside, and you can sort of feel that if he does have a smash, just an ordinary little smash, I don't really think he'd be hurt because he's positioned so that he wouldn't get really hurt, so I don't sort of really worry about that at all.
And you've got no intention of giving stock car racing up?
No, as long as my wife bears with me and as long as the money holds out, I'll continue to race.
No stranger to the crash of metal and the roar of the crowd, promoter Ray New raced motorcycles in Great Britain before switching to stock cars and taking the All England Championships for 1954 and 1955. Returning to New Zealand in 1960, he was quick to see the potential in the public's curious fascination with the dangerous and the spectacular.
In our first season of racing, we had approximately 14,000 people through in the first night. The second season, we did an average of 18 meetings and we got over 200,000 people, which is a lot of people. And so it has progressed over the last 2 years. Since then, we always get in the vicinity of about 200,000 people. Accident rate, well, the amount of people we've put through the showgrounds in the last 4 years, we've only ever had one fatal accident. And that was at the start of the second year, when maybe our precautions weren't quite like they're nowhere near what they are now, but they weren't probably as good as they could have been.
But to many sections of the community, stock car racing is undesirable. Most vocal of the critics and a strong campaigner against the sport when he was in office, former City Councillor Trevor Telecine.
Yes, well, the City Council is responsible for the licensing of the ground in which it's conducted. And we, through our officers, of course, make an inspection of the fence in particular to see if it's reasonably safe. Now, about 18 months ago, a wheel flew from one of the cars, went over the safety fence and killed a person. And naturally, a great deal of criticism was levelled at the council as to whether the fence was safe or not. Following that, an inspection was made and further safety precautions installed, but it's my personal view that you can never guard against the unusual happening, particularly in a sport where cars deliberately, as it were, knock into each other and where the idea is sometimes to push them off the track. I feel that ultimately there's bound to be another accident.
Responsible for enforcing the safety precautions, City Engineer G.F. Hogg.
Precautions which I feel can take account of all contingencies which may arise in stock car racing. We have had an accident here that was prior to the safety precautions being increased still further.
It has a terrific noise factor to the people living in the area.
Oh, it's noisy, especially at night time when we're watching telly. It makes all lines go across the set when there's a race on.
Well, for the young ones and those who like it, I think it's quite all right, and it doesn't worry us a bit. The noise doesn't worry us. Only thing that it does upset our telly a little when the actual race is on.
Well, we enjoy it. My husband and I quite often go. We've always been enthusiasts of it right from the time it started.
With regards to the type of crowd, I suppose you mean whether they're hooligans or the... No, I would say with regarding them, our mainstay is the family man with 2 children. That seems to be our main patrons seem to be family people. It's a night out that both the parents and the children can enjoy. We do get a certain amount of the younger people in the area. You get them to any sport. We don't have any trouble.
As far as the stock car racing goes, well, I don't think we have any more trouble at the stock car racing than we would at any other similar function.
Well, we have no trouble whatsoever with the drivers themselves. There have been one or two technical difficulties, but their behaviour on the road has been quite good. The spectators in the initial stages, when they first started stock cars here in Palmerston North, we had a lot of trouble, and a lot of tickets were issued to people, mainly when they were going home, trying to emulate the driver they had seen on the course. But I must say this, that in this last season, we've had very little difficulty.
What type of person races a stock car? Of course, we have a regulation where they must be over 21. So we don't have any young men getting carried away. They're always over 21, which we consider have a little bit more sense. All types. Garage mechanics, a few odd businessmen like a bus company proprietor, those type of people who have really no connection with actual racing, but they still come along and buy a car and build it and participate in our stock car racing. They must have a medical certificate and must be registered with the controlling body, which is New Zealand Autocycle Union. They also must have a current, clean driver's licence. Any endorsements are always frowned upon, and most serious endorsements, they're not allowed to race at all. Regarding the basic regulations for the building of stock cars, 4 things really. Weight, which is 2,800 weight, is very particular. Cubic capacity of the engine, meaning that they can't have any overpowered machines. That is also governed by carburetors and standard fuel. Tyres, we make them use a normal type of road tyre and armouring around the inside for the protection of the driver. Those are the 4 basic things. I feel that if I could make an income in some other business and come along each Saturday night and act as a competitor and race, I'd be the first one here each Saturday night, I'm sure of that. Really, I'm a competitor at heart, not a promoter.
Well, stock car racing is very exciting, and I've always wanted to do motor racing, but I've always felt that it's just a bit beyond my means financially. But stock car racing is good, you can have a lot of fun. It costs you a bit of money, but at least you get something back for it.
I started off actually just like most people as a spectator, and it seems such a fascinating sort of a way to spend your evenings.
We run approximately 50 to 60 drivers each week. Only ever one accident, again in the very first season. We were sort of a little bit in the dark with regards to safety precautions, not only the spectators but to the drivers as well. But since we have altered all the type of cars and the safety precautions for the cars, we now have no trouble and no injuries whatsoever. Last season I paid £14,000 prize money. A good driver can earn about £65 to £70 per night.
Butterflies and all the rest of it, just sitting there waiting, and well, they're trying to fix up the fences from the last race, and you're sitting there wondering what's going to happen to you after the flag drops, with all the cars behind you or the cars in front of you. You've got to try and get your way through the field.
Well, on the grid, yes, you feel pretty apprehensive. It takes a while before you calm down, but once the Jeep's rolling and you're following behind and the race starts, you're okay after that. You haven't got time to think of nerves or anything like that.
Well, when we get out there, we feel a bit lurchy. You're waiting for that old Jeep to get out of the road there. And, well, once it gets out of the road and you're underway, you don't worry about anything. You're just out to get out in front and stay there.
Some of them are really good drivers, but some of them, well, are quite well known to us. Well, they haven't got a good driving record on the road, but a big majority of them don't cause us any trouble whatsoever.
I think you can get enough stock car racing on any main highway today without going to see it done in a stadium. My sole criticism is it encourages young drivers who find older cars well within their financial scope today to act in a manner on the roadway which is dangerous.
I have been to 1 or 2 accidents after stock cars, yes, but I don't think that it had anything to do with the actual stock car racing.
For teenagers watching it, they get an idea of what sort of reinforcing goes into a car that's raced out there that gets knocked around a bit, and I think they get a better idea that they can't do it out on the streets. It stops them speeding and going silly out on the roads.
Safety factor than would apply to the motorcycle scrambles or the ordinary conventional high-speed motor racing. But after all, if you go and participate in a dangerous sport, I feel that you've got to accept some degree of risk.
Oh yes, I've been in 2 or 3. I've rolled the car once. That was about the worst I've gone through. I just closed my eyes and just hoped, and come out all right. No, you know, just battered around a bit, but nothing serious. I don't think you could really get hurt, really hurt in it, because the cars are well protected. You're safer on a stock car track than I'd say on the road.
Well, a friend of mine was knocked out, but I mean his crash helmet was on. He suffered no head injuries or anything. He was just knocked out.
So I rolled a couple of weeks ago, rolled quite badly and rolled about 3 times. I spent 10 laps on my roof watching upside down cars going past. It was quite an experience, the first time I ever rolled, and I didn't quite know what it was going to be like, but now it's happened. It wouldn't worry me at all. Any time to roll would just mean nothing. It's quite a great feeling, really.
The actual crash doesn't seem to get you so much. It's more or less when you sort of settle on your wheels or settle on your roof that it sort of sets in and you start to think, well, crap, so I was a bit lucky there.
And I feel quite nervous. In fact, when we're sitting on the starting line, if they're repairing the fence or there's any hold-ups, I quite honestly, I'm sort of wishing I could get out and run to the toilet. I know of one driver up there who was extremely bad, and he told me that he used to feel like vomiting until you get out there and the Jeep comes in the front, you start the car up, and once you start following the Jeep, you put your goggles down, you forget all about it, and you're only concentrating on who's ahead or who's in front of you.
I always try and keep out of the middle, because the chaps in the front, usually they don't like to jump away too quick because they're frightened of hitting the Jeep or, you know, being silly, so they're usually a wee bit slow to get away. The chaps at the back are dying to get to the front, and the chap at the middle can't go back and can't go forward. it's the feeling that knowing tonight I might get rolled over. You know you're not going to get hurt, but it's not knowing when it's going to happen. Like when you drive on your road, you never think I'm going to have an accident tonight. But up there you think tonight I'll get rolled, and you're sort of waiting for it the whole time.
I think there's a lot of skill in it. You're driving around a quarter-mile circuit with 44-gallon drums on the inside of it, railway irons set in concrete on the outside of it. Everybody else is trying to win the big money. You're trying to win it, and you've got to have a certain amount of skill to even to finish a race. Quarter-mile circuit with about 16 other cars in the race with you, that's a pretty rapid speed. If a car's ever upturned and it looks as if it's been a bad one, they'll always stop before the red lights are even flashed on to stop the race. They'll always stop. Very good when you come up behind some chappie and he just won't move, and you're both driving like mad to stay with one another. Might be 1 or 2 laps to go, and then you can get him on the last bend, and as the tail starts to slide on this car, you can just give him a nudge and see him spin around and go through it. There's a lot of excitement that you couldn't get anywhere else. Flag, and you drive around with your arm outstretched out the window and a big smile on your face, and everybody cheers and claps and whistles, and it's worth more than the £20 to do that. It's a real achievement.
Kevin, I don't think you'll be up with us again tonight. Have a look at that.
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, it's more like a disease, I think. Once you've done it once, you just, I don't think anyone can leave it alone.
Well, I buckled the back wheel and fractured a brake hose, and the fluid was going onto the buckled wheel, and it ignited, caught fire, and I had to pull out. But, I mean, it's just part of the game, that's all, and I've no intention of giving it up. I think it's a great sport. I realise a lot of people think that, you know, we're a little bit off our rockers to do this, but judging by the crowds we draw week after week, we're quite obviously satisfying some quirk in human nature.